Yeah, I'm going to tell you the story of the chickens.
Oh yeah, okay.
When I was a girl, we had assignments about chores and things that we were supposed to do. And one of my jobs was to feed the chickens at night. This was when I was like 10 or 11. My dad fed them in the morning and gathered the eggs. But I was to feed them at night and water them. And I was doing pretty well, being obedient. And one night I was out playing, and it was getting dark, and I kept thinking I should go do the chickens, and I should go, and I never did go. Finally, I forgot all about it. I went home and went to bed. And the next day, my dad said to me, "Gaye, did you feed the chickens last night?" And I said, "No." He said, "You know, we don't have any eggs this morning because they didn't get fed and watered." And I felt really bad because, you know, the eggs were what we paid our doctor's bills with, and we ate a lot of them ourselves. So if we didn't get any eggs that day, we had a short abundance that week because I hadn't been obedient. I hadn't been responsible. I had let my responsibility go by the wayside. And we used to herd the cows. We'd take the cows on. We lived just above the railroad tracks. We had like one train a day that came by at 10:30 in the morning. It only went to the granary where they hauled the grain after it had been harvested, and it picked up the grain and then came back. And so we would take the cows down along the railroad tracks. There was always a big space where they could feed along the tracks. And if they were out there when the train came, sometimes they would start running along with the train, which was always a worry because they could get injured and that kind of thing. And sometimes I rode a horse there, but I was afraid to get off for fear I might not be able to get back up on him. So I would just go gather him up the best I could. And sometimes we walked, and one time Darla and I were on a horse. We didn't have a saddle on that time. We just went bareback. Neither of us were very good horseback riders. And when we came home, when you started for home and you get a certain place of the road, the cows knew you were going home. And so they would start running. They would run into their corral. And so we got the cows in and got back on the horse to take him down to his place, and he started running. And we went running around a corner, and neither of us could hang on very well, and he was going pretty fast, and I was hanging on. I had hold of the reins and stuff, so I had something to hold on to, but Darla didn't. She was hanging on to me, and we both just kind of fell off as we went around the corner, and I looked up, and that horse's hoof came right down beside my head. That was a close call, too. I had lots of close calls on horses for some reason. One time, Geneva and I decided to go for a ride, and so we saddled up the horse. You always had to be careful with horses because when you put that belt around their stomachs, sometimes they would blow up their bellies really big. So even though you put it on as tight as you could, if they sucked in their belly, then the saddle was loose. So we had saddled the horse, and we went down the road and up the next road, and all of a sudden the horse stopped. And we couldn't get him to go, and then he turned around and he started running back home. And all we could do was to hang on. And my blouse had buttons in the front, and they kept blowing open in the wind, so I had to get Darla to reach around, hold my blouse closed. And so then we...
Guess that's you can... Darla, reach around, hold my blouse closed. What?
We didn't want to, and the cars would come, you know, so I didn't want to have my bra and my belly showing, and so she held on, but we didn't want anybody to know we were being run away with even more, you know, we were prideful, so we smiled. But when we got home, we went right down to where the horse ran all the way down to where he got saddled and stopped, and we got off and looked at him, and the saddle just slid right off his belly. So we managed to come all the way home. I'm sure we were protected because otherwise we'd have fallen off and, you know, gotten hurt. But the Lord or whoever kept the saddle on till we got home.
How many horses did your dad have?
We didn't have a whole lot of horses. We might have maybe 2 or 3 at a time, 2 maybe, and sometimes only 1. When I was younger, we had a lot of cattle, and they used to herd them up to the mountains in the summer to feed, and the guys would ride the horses to take them up. But after they sold the cattle and didn't raise them, we only kept 1 horse around. They were not always the greatest horses. They had some kind of injury. We had a couple of horses that were black and white. What's that called? Appaloosa or something. Anyway, one of them had been injured by the previous owner, and he'd put the bit in his mouth and pulled so hard he'd really injured his mouth, and so he wouldn't follow what you said. So one time I was with my dad.
He didn't take the bit real well.
No, he didn't. He didn't take the bit. And one time I was with my dad over at another field we had about a mile away from home, and Jim came over on the horse. And I said, "Can I ride the horse home?" And so he let me. And I got on the horse, and we got along the railroad track. That was the quickest way to get home. And that horse took off. He wouldn't, I couldn't get him to stop. I just let him go. I thought, well, when we get to the street, he'll turn and go home. But he didn't. He kept going down the next section of track to the next road. And it had a canal on the other side. And I was thinking, wow, I might get dumped in the canal or something. So when we got close, I turned him, and I turned him a little too short, but we got around the corner in time, and then we went galloping up that road, and I had to turn left again, and I turned a little short there too, and almost got brushed off by a tree. But he didn't stop. He didn't stop for anything. Rode all the way home. My dad and Jim were home, standing there waiting for me to come home on the horse, and they stood out and stopped him from going. My dad stopped the horse and got me off. I was shaking. I was so scared.
You're a real jockey there.
Oh, no, I wasn't. That was the problem. I didn't know that much about.
Oh, well, Gaye, we never saw anyone who could get that horse going that fast.
Yeah, I think my dad sold it after that, because if you couldn't control it, it couldn't be a kid's horse either.
So after the cattle, is that the main reason for the horse was recreation?
Yeah, and we didn't ride it all that much either. It's not like we rode him every day, so.
He just had a little pasture to.
Yeah, well, they were in a corral. They got fed hay every night and watered. Was about it.
They built the Idaho Falls Temple when?
It was dedicated in 1944. And I went, they had chairs out on the grass, and I think we were at the, what's the corner?
Cornerstone?
Cornerstone ceremony, yeah. And that was interesting, but I got kind of bored at 6. It didn't keep me entertained for real long. I don't know if something else was going on, but I remember playing on the grass, on the, down under the chairs a little bit. But I think I was there for the cornerstone laying.
But so for most of your life, the temple was there. You didn't think about it being a new thing.
No, it was always there. And I did baptisms there when I was a youth. That's where Dad and I got married.
Right.